We think we know these stories. We hear once upon a time, and we retreat to a warm, safe place in our minds. A world of enchanted forests and shimmering castles, a world built for children. But this is the first and most dangerous lie. The stories we tell our children are ghosts, pale imitations of the originals. The true fairy tales, the ones whispered in the flickering firelight of plague-ridden, famine-starved villages, were never meant to comfort. They were meant to scar. They were not lullabies. They were survival manuals. Psychological scalpels designed to carve a warning so deep into a child's soul that they might just live to see another sunrise. The magic in these tales is a code for the brutal mechanics of a world without mercy. The deep, dark woods were not a fantasy setting. They were the terrifying reality of the unknown that lay just beyond the village fence, a place where starvation and predators were not metaphors, but hungry, waiting certainties. These stories were a map drawn in tears and blood, and they all point to one horrifying truth. The real monster is never the witch or the wolf. It's the person standing next to you. Consider Cinderella, a tale we've wrapped in silken starlight. We see a story of dreams coming true. The original storytellers saw a brutal lesson in domestic warfare. The stepmother is not merely cruel, she is a master strategist in a vicious, zero-sum game of survival. In a world where a daughter's marriage is the family's only social security, Cinderella is not a daughter. She is a rival, a threat to her own bloodline's future. The cruelty is not random. It is a systematic campaign to break her spirit, to render her worthless in the marketplace of marriage. And the stepsisters, they are not just vain, they are desperate. The most chilling scene is not one of magic, but of mutilation. When the prince arrives with the slipper, one sister takes a knife and slices off her own toe. The other slices off her heel. They pack their bleeding, mangled feet into the shoe, smiling through the agony. This isn't just grotesque, it is the story's screaming thesis. It reveals the terrifying lengths people will go to seize an opportunity, self-inflicted violence they will endure to escape their circumstances. And the prince, he is not a lover, he is a prize. An escape route from a life of ash and servitude. The slipper is not a token of romance. It is a cold, unforgiving contract. And the ending, the famous happily ever after, ... is a lie. In the original, as Cinderella rides to her wedding, her doves descend and peck out the stepsisters' eyes, leaving them blind beggars for the rest of their days. The lesson is not that dreams come true. The lesson is that in this world, there are winners and there are losers, and the losers are not just defeated. They are annihilated. If Cinderella is a story of the enemy within the home, Hansel and Gretel is the story of the enemy within your own blood. It begins not with a wicked witch, but with a quiet, horrifying conversation between a mother and a father. The subject is famine, not a noble, romantic hunger, but the gnawing, all-consuming void that dissolves morality and turns a parent's love to dust. They make a calculated decision to lead their children into the forest and leave them to die, so that they, the adults, might have a little more food to survive. This is the ultimate betrayal, the breaking of the one sacred pact that holds the world together. The children, abandoned, wander through a forest that is now a cathedral of their parents' sin, and then they see it. The gingerbread house. It is the story's most brilliant, cruelest invention. It is not just a house of candy. It is the physical manifestation of hope in a hopeless world. It is a trap built from a child's deepest desires. The witch who lives there is not some supernatural entity. She is the logical conclusion of the parent's choice. She is what a human becomes when all of humanity is stripped away by hunger. She doesn't just want to eat them. She wants to fatten them up first to make a better meal of them. She is a farmer, and they are livestock. The children's survival is not a triumph of good over evil. It is a lesson learned in blood. Gretel does not pray for a miracle. She shoves the witch into her own oven, the very instrument of consumption, and burns her alive. They do not return home as innocent children. They return as hardened survivors who have looked into the abyss and learned its one terrible rule: eat or be eaten. So why do we still tell these stories? Because we have forgotten what they are for. We've scrubbed them clean, polished them until they shine, and in doing so, we have stripped them of their power and their purpose. We've turned these grim survival guides into shallow entertainments. But the fears they map are eternal. The fear of being betrayed by those you trust, the fear of what hunger can turn us into, the fear that the smiling face in front of you hides the teeth of a wolf. The original storytellers weren't trying to scare children with monsters. They were trying to teach them how to recognize the monsters that walk among us every day. The true happily ever after was never about a wedding, a crown, or a castle. It was about earning one more ragged breath. It was the profound, silent relief of surviving the night, knowing the darkness would return, but that for now, just for now, you were still alive. The stories don't end with a kiss. They end in the silence after the screaming stops.